Christmas Eve in Portland used to smell like fresh pine and warm cinnamon. This year, all I could smell was loneliness. I'm Elena Morgan, 32 years old, sitting on the cold floor of my small apartment I worked so hard to pay for. The glow of cheap fairy lights flickered weakly around me as my phone buzzed. A message, simple, heartless. Thank you for existing. Don't come. It was from my father. Those 6 words cut deeper than any cold winter wind outside. I stared at the screen, willing the message to change, to soften, to mean anything less cruel. But it didn't. Outside, the city was alive with holiday cheer. Laughter, music, warmth. Inside, I felt erased, invisible, excluded from the family I'd carried on my back for the past 18 months. Rent, bills, groceries. I'd been the one paying it all while they whispered behind closed doors. My sister Mia, only 2 years younger, was their favorite. A creative spirit, full of chaos, forgiven for every mess she made. I was the steady one, the responsible one, the one who sold her old laptop to cover Mia's student loans, the one who worked overtime at a soul-draining office job while she scrolled through Instagram, planning her next comeback. But tonight, the scoreboard was all I could see. The weight of invisible debts, the price of invisible love. It was almost 9 p.m. when my phone buzzed again. This time it was Mia's message, casually thrown like a dagger. If mom and dad ask, tell them you're just crashing on the couch. Your name's not on the lease, remember? I stood frozen in my kitchen, the sponge slipping from my hands. You told them that? I asked, voice steady but laced with disbelief. Chill, Elena. It's easier this way, she shrugged, already halfway out the door, her blonde curls bouncing like a carefree actress on stage. Easier? For whom? I looked around the apartment I'd paid for, every corner a reminder of sacrifice, every late-night shift, every extra dollar wired to cover rent and bills. I was the rock of this family. Or so I thought. I dried my hands slowly and sank into the chair, the cheap string lights casting fragile shadows around me. My father's words echoed in my head. Don't come. Like a door slammed shut, leaving me outside. I didn't reply. I just sat with the silence, heavy, suffocating, and real. That night, something inside me snapped. Not loudly, no dramatic outburst, but quietly, like a thread pulled tight until it broke. I found the old toolbox buried under coats in the hallway closet, the one I'd bought months ago for a shelf I never got around to building. The rusty handle felt solid and real in my hands. At the front door, the cold metal of the lock shimmered faintly under the dim bulb. Each turn of the screwdriver was deliberate, a choice, a small act of rebellion. Click. The old lock gave way. Click. The new lock fit perfectly. No hesitation, no guilt, just reclaiming what was mine. I leaned against the door and let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. The apartment felt lighter, like it had exhaled a burden I'd been carrying too long. When I crawled into bed, the sheets were cool, but for the first time in months, sleep came deep and steady. Morning came with pounding on the door. Mia was back, fists hammering like she wanted to shatter wood. But the new lock held firm. I didn't answer. The silence that followed was sharper, mine to keep. Outside, the city carried on, unaware, indifferent. But inside, I felt something shift. I was no longer just surviving, I was fighting back. What I didn't know then was how deep the cracks ran. Mia's chaos had slowly engulfed me, swallowing my time, my energy, my money. At first, it was small things, groceries, utility bills, promises to pay me back. I believed her. After all, she was my sister. But the small things became a flood. I was drowning in her mess while she danced through life untouched, carefree. I took extra shifts at the office, worked late into the night, paying $200 a month in rent while Mia scrolled through Instagram, planning her next big break that never came. Bills went unpaid, student loans mounted. I even sold my beloved vintage camera, my escape, to cover a chunk of her debts. And still she lied. Empty promises, excuses, tears. A performance perfected over years. I was the rock, the responsible one, until responsibility became a cage. Family dinners turned traps. Mum's voice sharp. Mia's just struggling. Dad pleading, "Claire, why do you make it so hard?" I smiled, hiding the ache beneath. But inside, I was breaking. When I found the fraudulent credit card charges in my name, $900 spent without my consent, it shattered what little trust I had left. That's when I stopped looking away. I wasn't just fighting a sister, I was fighting a family system that traded love for debt, and I was done losing. The afternoon sunlight was soft as I stood by the door, the weight of the boxes on the porch heavier than their contents. Each one was a symbol, my last act of kindness and the first step toward freedom. The smaller box buzzed faintly, a phone set to vibrate with a looping alarm. Inside, a credit card statement, $900 in fraudulent charges, and a USB drive filled with audio recordings of Mia laughing about manipulating me. A sticky note read, "Your contract has ended, emotionally and in every way." I shut the door gently, feeling the click of the latch like a seal on the past. The apartment finally exhaled, lighter, freer. Later, when the pounding came, I didn't flinch. Mia's fists against the new lock were a desperate plea. I didn't owe her anything anymore. I answered the door calmly and played the recordings. Her voice filled the room, laughter, boasts, and the truth I needed. My father's voice came through on speakerphone, shocked but silent. No excuses could undo the damage. Mia left that day, her footsteps fading but her lies exposed. I stood alone but whole. This was my home again, mine to protect. The morning light spilled through the blinds, casting soft shadows over the kitchen where I sat with a binder full of evidence, screenshots, statements, and recordings I had painstakingly collected. Each page was a testament to the 18 months of betrayal and exhaustion, but also a map out of the darkness. I filed a police report that day. Identity theft, financial abuse, and harassment, all documented with precision. By midweek, I had met Karen, a lawyer with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense voice. Her office smelled of leather and strength, the city skyline a backdrop to the battle I was ready to fight. "This isn't just about money," Karen said, flipping through my binder. "This is long-term exploitation." I nodded, steady now, no longer the frightened woman drowning under debts and lies. My parents' complicity hit me hardest. They'd signed off on forged documents, enabling her. But with Karen's help, justice became more than a word. Weeks later, Grandma Evelyn's call brought a ray of hope. She'd blocked the stolen funds, rewritten her will, placing her trust firmly in my hands. Her faith was a lifeline I hadn't expected but desperately needed. As the courtroom lights blinded me, I stood facing Mia, my family, and the cold eyes of the judge. Karen's words cut through the tension like a blade: proof, facts, and finally, freedom. Compensation, debt cancellations, and a formal warning marked the end of their control. Walking out, the snow swirled around me, each flake a quiet victory. The fight wasn't over, but I was no longer alone or powerless. The days that followed were a quiet unraveling of the life I once knew. Tom, Emily's ex, stayed on my couch, his presence a steady reminder that healing wasn't a solo journey. I brewed coffee each morning, the aroma a small comfort in the stillness of my apartment, my sanctuary now. The boxes I left outside, once symbols of severance, had become markers of new beginnings. One afternoon, a letter arrived from Natalie, Emily's daughter, written in crayon, an apology wrapped in innocence. Her words pierced through the bitterness, a reminder that love can survive even when families fracture. I tucked that letter away, not as a tether to the past, but a light for the future. Spring thawed the cold grip of Chicago, and with it, my parents' silence became a gift rather than a wound. I stopped chasing their approval and started embracing my own strength. A chance encounter at a gas station with my father revealed cracks even he couldn't hide. "Families fight," he said, but I knew I had fought enough, for myself. The apartment, once a cage, now breathed with possibility. It wasn't just a space, it was my life, reclaimed and redefined. The lesson I learned wasn't about bitterness or revenge. It was about reclaiming myself. For years, I believed love meant sacrifice, giving until I had nothing left. But love doesn't require erasing who you are. Emily's betrayal, my parents' silence, their dismissal, it was a painful unraveling of false loyalties. changing the locks, taking legal steps, standing my ground. It wasn't just about protecting my finances, but protecting my dignity. I realized walking away wasn't giving up on love, it was choosing self respect over obligation. Natalie's note reminded me that love can endure even when you're forced to step back. I was no longer the shadow paying their bills or begging for a seat at the table. I was Claire, whole, strong, and finally free. The silence in my apartment is now my anthem, powerful, unknown, and entirely mine. The Chicago skyline beyond my window witnessed the truth I carved out of family lies, that your worth isn't measured by how much you give, but by how fiercely you protect yourself. The morning light spilled through my apartment windows, soft and unassuming, like a fresh page. For the first time in years, I felt peace. Not the fragile kind that disappears with a phone call or a text, but a steady, unwavering calm. I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was beginning to live. The battles had been brutal, but they forged something stronger inside me. I rebuilt my life brick by brick, with boundaries that no one could cross, and a heart ready to heal. I kept Natalie's photo on my dresser, a symbol that love can endure, even when it changes shape. I reconnected with friends I had neglected, found joy in simple routines, and embraced the quiet power of choosing myself every day. No longer tethered by family expectations or the weight of unpaid debts, I was free to dream again. And while the past will always be a part of me, it no longer defines who I am or who I will become. This is my story, not just of betrayal and loss, but of resilience, courage, and the hard-won freedom to live my truth.